open Twitch in a separate window and check that that's live for me?
I got it up on my TV. I'm waiting. Not seeing it yet. Might just take a second. Yep, there we go.
Cool. Yeah, so
I don't see a bumper screen. I see our faces.
That's right.
All right. Tweet. Tweet is out. Copy link to tweet. Drop in the GQ Discord. Interrupt their conversation. You're doing like main hosting, right? Right. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I did it. What's up, nerds? Welcome to a monumental event here in the Game Query canon. Welcome to the first live episode of GQAM, a live sort of news and chatting show that Blake and I have been flirting with the idea of doing for a very long time as we play Call of Duty and just shoot the shit on Discord. We say, God, we, just talk so much about games and about the industry and about our thoughts on various things. It's a shame that we don't record those and put them out into the ether because we're I'll just say it right now, two of the funniest, two of the smartest, two of the most rad dudes in the video game industry. And you can tell because as I've put on the screen, both of our Twitter handles have the word rad in them, which I didn't realize until like a few days ago.
And that's right.
That makes this objectively the raddest show in video games history of all time.
Sorry, kind of funny.
Yeah. Also, I should have like properly maybe introduced us and who we are up front here, in case you're new to GQ. I'm AJ. I'm one of the GQ folks, and my lovely co-host here is Blake Hester, video game reporter legend himself. What the fuck is up, Blake? Tell the people how you're doing today.
Hello, I am industry analyst Blake Hester, ready to bring data and facts to the table as we discuss the wild world of the video gaming industry. Folks, there's a lot to talk about today.
Yeah. We've got our first comment in the chat there, and I think we should just go ahead and address that. Quick question: is that on God? Can confirm. Everything we say in this show is on God.
And my mama too.
Yeah, you can run that to the bank and ask them to double it for you. So, Blake, the purpose of this show, if the listeners are familiar with Game Query as a podcast, as an entity, it is technically a show that's about video games. Nice sneeze. You can get that right into the mic next time.
Yeah.
So it's a show that, like, in theory, is about video games, but we often just kind of hang out and talk about whatever we want. Rarely do we talk about new video games. We talk about the ones we like. Rarely do we try and input, our thoughts and hot takes and sort of objective analysis into the industry at large. We like to be low-key, relaxed, just hanging out and having a good time. This show is meant to be a little more what you might expect a video game podcast or show to look like. I've got a Google Doc here that I've gone ahead and populated with news stories and articles about things that happened in the world of video games this week. And every Friday, in the morning, starting at 12 noon Eastern p.m. You and I are going to just run through them, talk about games, what happened this week, news, and offer our insider analysis, hot takes, what we're thinking about how video games are happening. It's a great time to be launching this show, in particular this week, but as we move into a new generation of gaming, I think people often have asked, what does next gen gaming mean? What's that really going to look like? And I think the biggest benefit that gamers are getting for next gen games is that they're going to have this show to guide them through it. So the timing really couldn't have worked out better.
And I'm just getting word from Twitch HQ that this is the most watched stream currently.
Oh yeah.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. And sorry to Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red for taking your audience. You know that you knew what you were going up against when you launched your stream against ours, and you know that's on you. But I do want to at least offer my condolences for the low engagement that CD is getting today because of this.
You can tell that we're really 100% just perfectly in tune with everything happening in the games industry and understand, how this all works, because that's exactly why we scheduled our first episode of the show to go live at exactly the same time CD Projekt Red was streaming new details about Cyberpunk. That's how you get eyes on your channel. That's what we do. We could react on that to real time, but lame. Come on, we got more exciting stuff to talk about.
And to be honest, let's kick it off out the gate here. Game doesn't look that great. The writing is piss poor at best.
Are they going to put Keanu Reeves in it again? I fucking doubt it. Like, what do you want to show me that could get me more excited about that game?
I don't even like Keanu Reeves in general. I'm not going to like digital Keanu Reeves.
All right, well, the show's fucking canceled after that. I'm not having that kind of disrespect going out over the airwaves. You don't like Keanu Reeves? What's wrong with you? He's like
a bad actor.
Okay, I'm going to throw the Google Doc in the trash, and we're going to spend the next hour unpacking exactly what the fuck that's supposed to mean.
I've seen exactly 2 movies with Keanu Reeves in it. That would be The Matrix and The Matrix Reloaded, and he didn't turn in solid performances in either of those. I like those movies just fine.
Yeah. You don't think that Keanu Reeves as Neo in The Matrix is one of the most iconic roles in all of cinema history?
It might be. I just think he has the performance of a cardboard box in that movie.
So you think it's bad?
Well, I think the movies are good. I just think his performance is bad.
Wild.
I like The Matrix just fine.
We gotta fucking talk about something else. Is there anything you'd like to say up top at the start of the show here, Blake?
No.
That's what I thought. We love to see
I only woke up like an hour ago.
You said that. We were on the phone like an hour ago, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm on the phone with the
news.
CEO of Twitch right now, and I'm trying to buy more servers to support the greatness that is this show. They're having a great time with it. Tommy Twitch. But
let's get into it.
Jeffy B. Okay. The first item on our list, feels nice to say that's how you know this is a video game show, that we should talk about probably is the PS5 this week. They finally lifted the proverbial curtain off of that big, weird, pointy box and said, this is how much it's going to cost. This is when you can buy it. And these are the games that may or may not be coming to it.
One thing I do want to talk about really quick. We don't have to spend much time on it, but I do want to talk about the visual design of the PlayStation 5.
Of the box itself?
Ugly as sin. This thing is hideous. I don't know how I'm gonna hide it in my house so that I don't have to look at that affront to God. But you know what? I would say, not that I prefer one over the other, but I would say generation over generation. The PlayStation is usually my go-to console, but in the visual design look, the Xbox has always kicked the shit out of PlayStation. I was looking at the 3 and 4 and 2 on my shelf earlier.
Right.
Ugly too. I don't understand what's going on. But with the PS5, they have really topped themselves with just ugly designs. I can't handle this thing.
The Series X is possibly more ridiculous, the big fridge box. But
I like it.
I like how it isn't pointy. Like, it doesn't look like the Eye of Sauron. You know what I mean? That is something I could imagine putting on a shelf and having on my gaming station. But that's a great sort of way for us to introduce how we're approaching this show. Game Query, the podcast, is always about bringing questions to the table and determining who's got the right answer and whatnot. And we want to translate that into the live experience. So we aren't going to be recapping news as much as we are going to be approaching them from the angle of Game Query experts. So I've sort of written up a query for each of these little news stories Oh, we've got our first bot in the chat. It looks like. Love it. So I've written these news stories out with queries and questions that we can talk about rather than just broadly recapping the news from 3 days ago that everyone's heard 5 times by now. So
Yeah.
the sort of query that I had walking out of this PS5 news situation is, who should buy a PlayStation 5 this year? Did that presentation make a good case for Sony's next gen approach? For me personally, that PS5 show was one of the most frustrating video game streams I've encountered in a
Sure.
long while, because they opened it really, really strongly with the Final Fantasy 16 trailer that, just side note, looks rad, looks really, really cool. But then
Visually, it looks worse than 15 and certainly 7.
potentially, I think that game is a very long ways off, obviously.
Sure.
So I'm not like really, I'm not trying to do a Puddlegate on Final Fantasy 16 right now.
Sure.
I like the like medieval design, and they're getting back to the fantasy roots of the series. All that stuff looks cool, and that's a great way to come out the gate. But almost everything after that was a straight, just downhill slope in terms of like clarity, reasons to be excited, a compelling argument to get a PlayStation 5, particularly this year. And then all of the details started trickling out over Twitter. Jeff Keighley or like various sources on Twitter talking about, hey, the PlayStation 5 is actually available for pre-order tomorrow, today, right now. Demon Souls is going to be there at launch. Demon Souls is going to be on PC. Demon Souls is going to be on other consoles. The games are going to cost $70. All of these things that you would love to see on this show all came out afterwards via Twitter, and were all in conflicting arguments. So it felt very hard for me to get excited about any of that stuff, to be honest. How did you feel?
I tuned in, and I aside from one new trailer, could not bring myself to be excited for much. I am very excited for Resident Evil 8. I think that game looks great. While I certainly don't think this is a return to the village of Resident Evil 4, I do like that the game is kind of going for that similar aesthetic. By the way, our stream is buffering, people are saying.
That sounds like a you problem. I don't know what to do about that.
It's a bunch of people in the chat saying that. Anyway, I do like the return to the village aesthetic of 4, and even the castle, really. Maybe it does take place. I don't think they would dip their toe into the well again like that, but maybe. But I'm really excited about that. Spider-Man looked just fine. I'm sure I will feel the same way as I did about the first game, where that was fun, but nothing too memorable.
It's really more Spider-Man. That's what they're doing. They're really just giving you more of that stuff.
But aside from being excited about one thing and some cursory interest in a few others, no, I didn't see anything in this that made me feel like it was worth the headache of pre-ordering this thing in the year 2020. I do appreciate Sony for letting me know which of the people I follow on Twitter can just throw down $500 willy-nilly like it's nothing in the middle of a global pandemic. Shout out to you all. I wish I lived a blessed life such as yours. But no, it was really interesting because like I often allow myself to be consumed by the hype of something by E3. And I generally think Sony is good about coming out with 1-2 punches and getting you hyped for their press conferences and an E3. And then, the questions tend to come later. Like, what is this Shenmue 3? Final Fantasy 7 is in multiple parts. But for me personally, no. Like, there was nothing I really, like, I was not chomping at the bit to buy a new box. And then to find out that the majority of these games are just going to come to PS4, it's like, well, you've completely de-incentivized any reason for me to, take a second mortgage out on my house to afford this thing right now.
So you weren't scrambling for a pre-order or anything like that?
No,
probably
didn't
not.
Even try.
Probably not this year.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, same with Xbox, but I feel like Xbox has been more transparent about like, hey, there's not really, without saying it in such explicit terms, there's not much of a reason to uh go out and buy this thing right now. And Sony seemed to want to hide that fact, but after the stream was over and I'm checking the takes on Twitter, I'm like, oh, there's definitely no reason to adopt a PS5 if all these games are going to come to PS4 and just look marginally not as good. And I'm not going to play Horizon Zero Dawn as it is. So
Yeah, I'm in a like weird place with all the next gen stuff in general. I have a Series S, I have a PS4, and I just built a PC this year. So I feel like for at least 12 months, I can probably play every video game that comes out in decent to good quality. Especially now that like I'm probably the most excited out of the PS4 games about Spider-Man and Horizon 2, and then like to a lesser extent Demon Souls. And now that I imagine that that's coming to PC, I'm more excited about it, I guess. But neither of the boxes has really made the argument for me that I have to get it this year or anytime soon. Honestly, I think if you're someone who's like been chomping at the bit just to see what next gen gaming is about, like people have been planning and budgeting for this for a while because we've known it.
sure.
I guess like the prices aren't as ludicrously high as I was expecting them to be, so I do think that that's a plus for all of this stuff. Like the most you're gonna pay for a next gen console this year is $500, which I think that's like normally the ceiling for some of these things. That was what
Yeah.
PS3 was the like outlier at 600, I guess, but that's what like PS4 Pro launched at, and that's what Xbox One X launched at. So it's not ludicrously high. I think like they were selling bundled PS4 Pros this year for 500, 450 bucks with like some of those games.
I will say, brave of Sony on their big presentation to not show what looks to be their best game for the PS5, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. That game looks so good.
They've showed the same demo twice now. Basically.
Doesn't matter. Show me again. That shit looks amazing.
It does look good, yeah.
Of the Insomniac lineup, I'm much more excited for Ratchet and Clank. Though, I will, you know what? The Spider-Man demo looked fun, but it bummed me out that there wasn't more just free roam stuff. That's actually what I want to see, not the set pieces.
Yeah, we all know the best part of that game was swinging and zipping and zapping.
Well, I want to know if they're adding a new borough. Like, can I go to Brooklyn? Or are you going to just open up? Is there going to be more to do? If you're not, is there going to be more to do in Manhattan? Because that city was dead. If you went to the ground floor of New York in that Spider-Man, there was nothing going on down there. It was such a bummer. So that was kind of what I was most interested in seeing is this world going to feel more alive? And instead I got like, a QTE heavy set piece, which looked fine, I guess, but it wasn't what I was specifically interested in there.
Well, they said that this one takes place in Harlem, so I kind of imagine that it's like a self-contained DLC that with like a totally new area of the city to explore, and you're probably going to get those weird invisible walls when you try to leave. I remember like I tried to go find my apartment the first thing in that Spider-Man game, and you like go near the Brooklyn Bridge and he just falls in the ocean, and it's like absolutely not happening this time.
I will say Miles Morales, very excited to play as him because Peter Parker sucks. Do not like that character.
But
Miles Morales is awesome.
Yeah, I really like Yuri Lowenthal, who did the performance for Peter Parker in the first game, and I think that like the story was secretly the reason that game worked so well with all of the villains and all of the Spider-Man stuff. But it's definitely exciting to not have to deal with Peter Parker and all of the problematic cop propaganda that was in that first game this time around.
Oh, sure, definitely. And just historically, I've always disliked Peter Parker as a character, but I like Spider-Man as a superhero. So I'm excited to get to play as Spider-Man, but not Peter Parker.
Yeah. And excited to play it on PlayStation 4, we should mention.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I guess there's one game in that presentation that we haven't talked about that we probably should have got the next query ready to locked and loaded for it. And that would be, God, what's the name of this game actually?
God of War.
Okay, let's actually talk about God of War really quickly. What a fucking wet fart of a way to end that presentation. Everybody knew that were they not going to make a sequel to God of War, right? Like,
yeah,
it was literally a PowerPoint slide that was like, yes, we are making another one, and that game's not coming out next year. I give it a
Oh, yeah.
0% chance.
I watched this with my girlfriend, and we were making predictions about what we thought they were going to show. My girlfriend, not a follower of the video game industry, but she
Yeah.
had a great prediction. She said, "What if they did something like Microsoft Flight Simulator, but it was like you get to go to ancient ruins and learn about them?" And I was like, "That's an amazing idea." Instead, they're going to show fucking Call of Duty, and it's going to be problematic. But she was like, "What if we use the PS5 as a learning tool?" And I was like, "God, I love
Damn.
it." Anyway,
Too good for the games industry.
But
Yeah,
I did say my prediction was I don't think they're gonna show it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they show it. And when they showed it at the end, I was like, there it is. And then yeah, you know what is weird is I'm coincidentally replaying God of War right now
That's right.
with my girlfriend, and I have like almost completely 180'd on that game. When I played it when it came out, I really, really enjoyed it. And playing it through a second time right now, it's just and now seeing a sequel announcement, it's like I don't even know if I care to go back to this world. Granted, seems different. I don't think Cory Barlog's directing, which I'd be interested to see what a new face might bring to it. But yeah, nothing to get excited about here,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think that the like approach to the PlayStation 5, which maybe is like smart for Sony, seems to be very quickly getting out sequels to the big PS4 stuff because they've already got those engines, those characters, and it seems like a lot of those games are going to be like Spider-Man is literally just Spider-Man, but more in a new area with like a new smaller storyline. Horizon seems to be Horizon, but like in a different map. God of War is probably going to exist in that same overall world with like new enemy varieties and bringing in different gods. So it's like a unique approach to basically the first year and a half ish of PS5, just being like all those things you liked on PS4 are here, and there's just new more of it. Kind of like a Persona 5 Royal approach. In a way,
Put Persona 5 on PS5. Oh, it is
they
coming
did.
to PS5.
Yeah, that's
I am
one more
excited
thing
about
we
that.
should mention too. That PlayStation Plus collection seems really, really neat. They're obviously sweating in their trousers about Game Pass and how
Yeah.
awesome that argument continues to be on Xbox's behalf. That's just like, look, buy the box, subscribe to the thing. We don't really care.
Yeah.
We don't really need exclusives because we're gonna just overwhelm you with choice. The other, yeah.
It would have been cool to see something be like, you know how Xbox is always like, we got 300 games on this piece. You play them all for free. Sony was like, we got 7. Got The Last of Us. You want to play that again?
Yeah.
No, not the sequel. The first
one remastered.
Yeah, because we're gonna ship that second one for $60 on this.
$70. All those games are $70.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
The that first PlayStation 5 reveal, I really surprisingly was like over the moon about it. I thought that presentation was awesomely well paced
sure.
as a video game thing. Like big reveal of the box at the end, and the best thing about it was the variety of the games they showed. Tons of indie stuff, tons of narrative based stuff, like really good deep dives into all those things. That Bridge of Spirits game, the Dinosaur High thing, all those things looked rad. And then this one was basically right back into the like bravado, mature, machismo gamer persona that I haven't really vibed with. That's been like the PlayStation 4's drum beat that they've been marching to for a few years. So that's just why it didn't totally land for me. But I don't think I'm necessarily the ideal target audience of someone who's going to jump out of my seat to grab the PlayStation 5 at launch. I'm happy for the people who are excited about that, I guess. I just maybe don't see the reason to buy either of those consoles right now.
Real quick wrap up on the PS5. Resident Evil 8, again, looks amazing. Cannot wait to play it. Deathloop, Arcane, knocking it out of the park with that thing. Call of Duty, wow, that was... You ever just watch a video game trailer and realize how desensitized to violence you are?
I said it when you and I were playing Call of Duty the other day. I've come to realize that the most toxic thing about my personality is just how much I enjoy Call of Duty and playing it, and like how stupid excited I am for that other game this year.
Seeing some notes in chat that the stream is still hiccuping some, it seems a little better, but yeah, just a note.
We'll get that nailed out next time. I think I don't know exactly what the settings in OBS are here. I don't know why it's deciding to not play along this time, but I will play less trailers in 1080p. Tried to make this visually engaging, but I do have an article fired up that maybe we can chat about
Okay.
in as a lead into our next query, which of course would be the one game that we haven't mentioned. I was trying to get the actual name here. Hogwarts Legacy from
Oh,
Portkey Games, and the
ah,
query that I have here
no,
is: it possible to buy a
no.
Harry Potter game and also just hate and talk shit about J.K. Rowling? Um, Everyone's reaction when they showed this trailer, and this game leaked like almost 2 years ago at this point. We've known it's coming for a while, and the general temperature on this game has been, I mean, a Harry Potter RPG where you get to like play as a student at Hogwarts, go really in depth with all of that lore and the mystery set in the 1800s, like years before the franchise itself, is cool in theory. But unfortunately, J.K. Rowling sucks shit, and nobody wants to exist in that world anymore because it's incredibly compromised and problematic.
Yeah. Look, uh, here's what I'll say. Harry Potter for nerds always has been for nerds.
Damn.
Get that shit out of
Get
my
me,
fucking
roast
face.
me.
This is obviously a weird time to announce a Harry Potter game. And I don't know if this is where I want to leave it or not, but me and you are not the people to say definitively yes or no. I think there are people, the trans community specifically, are the people I want to listen to talk about this.
For sure.
Like, my opinion on, well, I can hate Harry Potter and support the devs doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I'm not, and I've seen a lot of tweets that are like, well, if you don't buy the game, you're not supporting developers in bad situations. And those tweets don't, at least the ones I've seen, I shouldn't speak for everyone, don't seem to be coming from the people I would want to hear speak on this.
I think that's a pretty shitty bad faith argument that's just like burying your head in the sand and trying to be like, you have to buy the game because we have to support developers and they didn't know and they are totally independent to some extent. And people have been pointing out that not only are J.K. Rowling's ugly transphobic tweets and just continually doubling down on her shitty worldview a reason that this makes this problematic, but that there's some actual like weird racism and questionable content in the Harry Potter franchise itself, and always has been, as a reason that maybe people shouldn't be excited about this thing. It's just, it's such a bummer on so many levels because it's Avalanche Studios, who I think have made great games in the past, and this is definitely like the biggest thing they've got to work on, and like it seems like a very high profile and prestige project. I'm happy for those folks, but also, yeah, like big sucks that J.K. Rowling is absolutely going to be making money off of this and will continue to like proliferate her image and her intellectual property. This Polygon article I've got pulled up here is Warner Brothers trying to get out front and saying that J.K. Rowling is not directly involved in any part of the game, which I do believe. The original Harry Potter author did not write the new story, is the subhead there. I absolutely believe that. I think we've gotten to a point with the franchise where like you can do this, hand it off to a video game studio and say like, go ahead, handle something new. The issue is that like she is the sole creator of Hogwarts and this wizarding world, and you cannot play this game and not think about her and her creation and its reference to the stuff that she's done in the past. And like, you know, you and I are two cis men in the games industry. When we play this game, we have the ability to just sort of like shut it off and go in the back of our minds like, yeah, I know J.K. Rowling has said some shitty stuff and I don't agree with it, but it doesn't like affect me personally. It just affects people I care about and my friends, which is like not the position to be in. Also, there are more important things than getting to enjoy the wizard game.
Exactly. And to directly respond to people being like, well, if you don't buy this game, you're not supporting developers who, you know, aren't involved with this. That insinuates I have to buy this game and I have to support, and I don't.
Yeah.
I can choose what I buy. And I understand that argument, kind of. I think it's not a great argument. But I don't have to buy this. I don't have to engage with this and support this. I'm sorry that this is a sticky situation for the people working on this game that are separated from J.K. Rowling and her views. But that doesn't mean I have to support it on principle You know, like
Yeah.
despite that fact, like I am my own person and I make my own decisions.
I don't
And
buy
you're
every video game. Like there are developers I don't
yeah,
support.
it's like guilting me into consuming, and it's like first off, you don't you're assuming that the corporate structure of every developer works based on bonuses, which I assume a lot do, but you can't say definitively that
hmm
if I don't buy this game, I'm stopping some lighting artist from getting their bonus. I don't know how Avalanche's bonus system works.
There have been a lot
Uh,
of really interesting conversations in the fallout of this around like death of the author as a concept. I mean, people have brought it up and compared to like, oh, when you buy the Call of Cthulhu game, are you proliferating H.P. Lovecraft's image? The thing is, he's
yes.
dead, has been dead for a very long time, and also like has been publicly unpacked, and like we've
Yeah.
really started to grapple with on a much larger scale, like his shitty influences and worldviews and how they actually bled into the material. And I think we need to start doing that more for J.K. Rowling, talking about how, like, look, the unnamed specter that influences so much of Lovecraft's horror was in many cases like actually people of color and what he saw as like race mixing, and that's what informed his
Yeah.
terribly like that's what informed his worldview, and why some of his horror is so compelling is because he was like writing it in the place of actual racism. We need to have that conversation around Rowling. And
Yeah.
there was a great point made, I forget by whom. There was a good tweet that was just like, the death of the author as a concept is about your interpretation of a thing, how you can say like, I chose to believe that this character was acting in this way regardless of what the actual producer and the people behind it have said. It does not apply to, oh, I'm going to buy this product and also say that like JK Rowling sucks and like I've made
Yeah.
my peace with that, wash my hands, the conversation is closed. It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting too how this game crosses over into a more general public. I kind of feel like announcing it at the big PS5 showcase is definitely pitched to like hardcore gamer contingent, and this thing isn't coming out until next year. Harry Potter still carries a lot of respect in public spheres among lots of people who maybe aren't the most dedicated gamers, and I wonder if they're sort of pitching this as like the next kind of Arkham franchise or something that can get people like even like that Avengers game, trying to get new people like in the door just because it's a video game with characters and elements that I recognize. And I think there needs
Yeah.
to be people out there saying like, don't do it. Don't fucking do it.
Exactly. Yeah. I do want to say, at the risk of talking in circles, I understand the people's you should still buy this game argument. But I also think the best counter argument is no, I fucking don't.
Yeah, no, I don't.
That's not how that works.
I'm gonna play Resident Evil 4 again.
Yeah, exactly. I question the effectiveness of voting with your dollar because I don't think a lot of people do it. But I can do it, and if I don't want to support something because of one person's shitty views who's going to be making a lot more fucking money off this than anyone else, I don't have to.
Yeah.
So, I think it's an argument with good intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
It's going to be tricky as, the general marketing cycle of that game rolls out and we start to see previews and more trailers and gameplay demos. Like, if this conversation, I've actually been a little enlightened that it seems for the most part that people haven't fallen for what this like obvious trick was meant to be. That was like, whoa, Harry Potter RPG where you get to role play as a kid at Hogwarts, doesn't it look fucking cool? Most major gaming publications and podcasts that I've checked out have, in reaction to this, not skipped over Rowling's the transphobic elephant in the room, as it were. And
Sure.
I think that that's encouraging, and I really hope that that continues to maybe close out that section of the conversation. It reminds me of like the Ubisoft stuff that has also been happening, like how a lot of people have been willing to skip over the fact that they are not being held accountable for the big issues in that company, and also talking about, I don't know, how Watch Dogs looks kind of mid or something like that. Like we're very willing to do that right now, and it's been rough to see.
Definitely. I'm not playing that fucking Harry Potter game. Harry Potter sucks anyway. The only thing that was ever cool about Harry Potter was Hogwarts
Yeah.
as a concept. And that was only cool visually, so you only got to see it in the first movie, and then in the subsequent movies they never even like paid that much attention to Hogwarts. It was just set dressing. So there's only one good part of Harry Potter, and it's like the first 30 minutes of the first movie, so I don't need all that
I
shit.
I was perfectly in the pocket for Harry Potter in terms of when it came out, what it was about, how it was delivered, all of that stuff. Like it was a big part of my life when it was there. And here's what I'll say to close that out: there have already been fantastic Harry Potter games. The Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets for PC. You can probably go get those games without giving any more money to J.K. Rowling, if you know what I mean. There's also
Exactly.
a really great like fan game out there right now that incorporates some good social commentary into the gameplay of those first games. It makes you aware of how shitty J.K. Rowling is. There are things you can do that won't support a shitty person. So
Yeah,
let's move on to something that's completely unproblematic, for
let's
sure.
do it. I'm
Uh,
cracking open my second LaCroix for this stream.
you want
Let's
to get that
go.
on mic? Yesterday, Nintendo had a partners showcase. This is like the
I didn't. Yeah, I
third
didn't
or
watch this,
fourth
so you're
of
gonna have
this
to.
that they've done this year. Well, the thing about Nintendo this year uh, is it's been weird. It's been fucking strange to be a Nintendo fan and
Yeah.
to pay attention to Nintendo and the games that they've got coming out this year. A lot of their stuff they've literally announced by just tweeting it out. Mario 3D All Stars, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. They said like, here are these fucking games. They're coming out later this year. You're probably gonna buy it. Fuck you. Go home. People have been fiending for a direct. It's been like well over a year since a proper formal Nintendo Direct, where they typically do a lot of their big announcements and show off stuff they've got coming up. And this year they've elected for more focused indie directs and partner directs that talk about maybe some smaller games. You're not going to get like the new Zelda announced here. You're not going to get any details on Metroid Prime 4. The one yesterday was probably the best one of these that they've done this year. They opened up with Monster Hunter Rise, which I think looks really cool, and it's like the first Switch exclusive Monster Hunter game. And they
Mhm.
also dropped Hades number one, or sorry, version 1.0. That game's out of early access, and then also Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which came out on Xbox earlier this year, is coming to Switch. I mean, it's on Switch now. So I think they finally nailed a good one is kind of my question, my query, my approach to this. Like it's been rough. People have really roasted them, especially when they put out a thing that was like, we're announcing a one big secret game tomorrow, and it was a fucking Bakugan tie-in game, which was like an anime from the early 2000s. Very strange time to be a Nintendo fan. And I think the stuff that they showed off here looks good, but it leads into a broader conversation about some reporting that's come out recently that there's a new Switch in the works, that Nintendo is going to put out a new
Sure.
machine next year. They actually got out there and were like, yeah, we're going to fucking do it. They called it, I think, like the integrated hardware software next gen gaming system that's coming out in 20XX. But people are really starting to speculate that this machine is coming out next year and
Yeah.
that it is going to do 4K output. So my proposition to you, Blake Hester, as a professional gamer, what do you want from a new Nintendo Switch?
Yeah. What chugging is intensifying. God, I'm so sorry, y'all. Um, often don't care about the incremental steps of consoles, but the Switch has me interested because there's just a lot of like quality of life things that I think the Switch could have that it doesn't have. And in a like and one of that is just like the actual feeling of the Switch. Like that I see very little point in playing the Switch on a TV if it's a handheld, and that thing can
Yeah.
make your hands hurt. I'm getting older, you know. I think I'm getting carpal tunnel, and that's not helping. So that's something that really interests me because I don't need my PS4 to be more comfortable in my hands.
Hmm.
But I would really like a Switch that
I do.
feels,
That's a terrible controller, the DualShock 4.
oh
I'll put
yeah,
it on wax.
it at least has like divots for your fingers in it. The Switch is just a slab you hold in your hand.
Yeah.
So something like that would be really appealing. I I don't know if they're gonna do like a handheld in 4K or whatever. Like that doesn't really matter to me. But I would just love to see a Switch natively that has bigger memory on it, because I'm not putting a Call of Duty on my Switch. I'm putting, Resident Evil, almost 20-year-old game, and then games like Ape Out and Donut County, and I can still only have like 3 or 4 games on there, tiny little games. And I know I can get the SD card and all that, but like if I buy a console, I buy consoles so I don't buy PCs. I don't want to buy all this extra
Yeah.
shit for it.
I-
So I would love a Switch that's just more comfortable and can fit more stuff on it, because I do spend a lot of time deleting games off my Switch to re-download something.
Mhm. I bought a like external battery add-on and a like grip thing for my Switch to fix like my two biggest issues with it are it dies too quick, and it's uncomfortable to hold in bed sometimes, which is where I like to play. I've
Yeah.
never needed a Nintendo system to do 4K to look on par with the other systems. That's why I go to the other systems. I need a Nintendo console so I can play a lot of Pokemon, play a lot of Zelda, play a lot of Mario, etc., and that's what's getting me in the door. So
Yeah.
to see that this thing is gonna like prioritize performance is maybe not the most encouraging thing for me as a reason to pick it up or get excited about it, but I'm also sure that there's gonna be some wacky, surprising gameplay element. Nintendo always kind of does that with their consoles. I guess I'm curious to see how much of an incremental upgrade this thing is. Like, I really like the Switch Lite, the cute little guy that they put out that's on the go only, and I've been flirting with the idea of picking one of those up for a very long time now. I had just assumed that they were going to make one to tie in with the Mario package, and I guess they didn't. So if they put out like a neat color or something, I'm a little weakling, a baby boy who loves Nintendo so much that I'm probably going to pick one of those things up eventually.
I will say, for me, I haven't had any issues with my Switch. Like, I've never had Joy-Con drift or whatever, and like I honestly can't see myself buying a new Switch. Like, those things I said I wanted would be nice. I don't think I would drop $300 on a Switch again, since I already own one and have no problems with it. Unless it is like there's something new about it outside of like it has bigger memory or it performs better. Like, if there's some new mechanical thing about it, maybe I would entertain the notion. In retrospect, I really wish I had a Switch Lite, though. I bought one of those for my old lady. God, those things rule. Why are you putting your Switch on the TV first and foremost? So to have a handheld only Switch, and it's a little smaller. Oh, I'm so jealous of her Switch.
That's a great transition into the next topic I have for us to chat about. Very simple question. Super Mario 3D All-Stars comes out today, is out now. I'm going to go pick up my copy as soon as we're done here. I had to do this fucking show instead of playing, Mario, baby. Mario time,
Right.
bing, bing, wahoo has been delayed for me. The query that I have, is that bad? Is this game bad? That seems to be
I don't know.
That seems to be the overall consensus is that, look, it's fucking 3 Mario games stapled together and glued to your Nintendo Switch. It seems like a real bummer for something that's supposed to be the 35th anniversary of the Mario game.
The only thing I know about this game is the weird, what do you call it? Like, the weird way they're selling it, where you only have like 6 months to buy it. And that is so gross to me that it is almost completely dissuaded me from playing it. And I'm gonna get my gamer card revoked here. I have never played any of the games in that collection, and I have wanted to play them for a long time. And Nintendo being like, here they are, but you only have this specific amount of time to play it, and then we're gonna Disney Vault it. I'm like, that's fucking gross. Like, don't do that. I think Andrew Reiner on Game Informer had a really good opinion piece about this that I recommend people look up. Like, if it's a physical version of it, whatever. I understand you're like, hey, we're not going to be manufacturing chips for the or cartridges after this date for this game, but it'll still be available digitally. That's fine. I can get on board with that. But how the fuck are you going to take away? Why is a JPEG on your eShop in it like an exclusive thing that I have to buy before this specific date? Like, it really, really turns me off of playing this whole thing.
Yeah, like this image here is a little gross in particular, that like before the
Yeah.
game was even available, people were starting to scalp physical copies of it.
Yeah,
And I mean,
man.
like, I hate to say it again, as I said, I got the baby gamer brain, but like I did, rush out to grab a physical copy of this game because I want to
Sure.
have it in posterity. I just think it's shitty that I've been put in this
Yeah.
position whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fault anyone for buying it, but I do think it sucks there in that situation.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think it sucks there in that situation where it's like, e- even if I wanted to buy this, like I just can't afford a $60 game right now,
Hmm.
and I'm fortunate that I don't have a family to take care of and a house to pay. It's like, some people
Yeah.
don't just get to buy $60 games whenever they want, and now you're gonna tell them, oh, if you can't buy it within this window, you don't get it.
You
Like,
and I,
that
you and
sucks.
I don't have children who are meant to play the Mario games.
Yeah, that's a good point.
we're
Yeah.
just grown men who want to do that independently
Yeah.
on our own. Uh,
Yeah.
if you read the tea leaves and pay attention to all of this strangeness and that report we were just talking about, and even the Monster Hunter game, a lot of weird things are starting to coalesce around next March for Nintendo. And I know that it's like typically the end of a financial quarter, so that makes a lot of sense. Like a lot of games try to get rushed out by the end of March, but like people are starting to speculate that potentially that new Switch could be expected to learn or even launch by March of next year. Interesting stuff. We're approaching a real gray area for next gen gaming, as we were talking about at the top of the show.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really necessarily like when I'm thinking of whatever Nintendo's launching next year, I don't think of that as a next gen thing for them.
They're
If
so
anything, because like their timeline is like off from PlayStation and Xboxes now.
yeah.
That I imagine is like a PS4 Pro equivalent of the Switch. Like I don't really look at that as like a next gen thing coming from them.
I think whatever it is, it's going to keep the Switch name.
Yeah.
You've got the Switch Lite, and probably like Switch Pro sounds pretty nice, I think. I imagine it's going to be like a beefier, better Switch. I can't imagine them abandoning it with such a massive install base already and trying to ask those people to get entirely bought into a new thing of hardware. They were really smart about that with the 3DS, which just ended, like was officially discontinued this week, yesterday, basically. So RIP to a real one. Shouts out to a king, the 3DS, one of my favorite video game machines of all time.
Never had one. Remember a kid my junior year of high school had one in first period, and I said, "This thing does 3D without 3D glasses," and he said, "Yeah," and he turned the 3D on, and I was like, "Where?" That was that's the only time I ever interacted with that.
Maybe
thing.
the 3DS may be too good for this world.
Yeah.
I think let's punt our bigger next gen gaming